28 years ago in Meerut, 42 Muslim men were taken in a truck and brutally shot, their bodies thrown into a canal in what has been called the worst custodian killing in independent India. Their attackers were allegedly men from the PAC, the Provincial Armed Constabulary, many of whom were later posted with the UP police. 28 years later, all 16 accused were let off by a court over the weekend for lack of evidence. The question is, will there ever be justice?
Insufficient evidence to confirm the identity of the policeman. That's what the court said, letting off 16 policemen charged with the murder of 42 Muslim men in Meerut in 1987. But lawyers who have worked on the case say there was circumstantial evidence, but the probe was shoddy.
From the very moment that the investigation was initiated, there was a deliberate plan to either not collect the crucial pieces of evidence, allow them to be lost through passage of time or otherwise, or to conceal certain evidence, or to destroy and tamper with evidence.
They point to a series of lapses in the investigation. The state CID took over the probe within 2 days of the massacre, but took 9 years to file the charge sheet. One of the 2 original FIRs has been destroyed. Weapons were not taken into custody by the state CID. The state administration cremated the bodies, or they could have been exhumed later. And though not a lapse but a shortcoming, 3 of the investigating officers died, so they could not testify as witnesses. Moreover, only low-ranking policemen were named in the charge sheet, who did not appear in court for 3 years. The first witness testimony was recorded only in 2006, 19 years after the massacre. What's even more shocking is that the state reinstated most of the accused policemen after a brief suspension, and 10 are in service even today.
Normally, you don't dismiss them outright. Once you find somebody guilty after investigation, we normally place them under suspension because we have to await the court's verdict.
Under fire, the state government says it is awaiting a detailed judgment before deciding on an appeal.
There is a due process, there is a system. The verdict is examined by the prosecution branch, which is not under us. Once they give their comments, the system takes over.
But for the survivors and the families who lost their loved ones in the massacre, the acquittal has reopened old wounds and a haunting question. Who killed 42 men in Hashimpura in 1987?
सरकारें बदली, हमारे चीफ मिनिस्टर बदले, हमारे प्राइम मिनिस्टर बदले. जो मौजूदा हालात में हमारे प्राइम मिनिस्टर थे राजीव गांधी, उन्होंने हमें सपोर्ट नहीं किया, तो और कौन करेगा? आज के टाइम में जिस दिन ये फैसला आया, अखिलेश यादव उस दिन मेरठ में ही थे. उन्होंने हमारे लिए कुछ नहीं सोचा कि हाशिमपुरा के लोगों से जाके मिला जाए.
Regardless of which government has been in power in Uttar Pradesh, all they have got is apathy. With Tanima Biswas and Rajesh Gupta, Neha Masih for NDTV.
Well, is this a complete travesty of justice? That's the question we're asking tonight. On the panel with us this evening is Vrinda Grover, who's one of the lawyers for the victims this evening. Also with us, Vikram Singh, the former DGP of Uttar Pradesh. We also have Vivek Bansal here in the studio with us, former MLA from Uttar Pradesh and All India Congress Secretary. And we are also joined by Gaurav Bhatia of the Samajwadi Party. Sudhanshu Trivedi of the BJP continues to stay with us. Vrinda Grover, my question then is to you first. Nobody killed these men? Is that what we're saying today?
Well, that is what the court is also not saying. The court is saying they have given benefit of doubt because the exact identity of which man in uniform, which officer or man of the Provincial Armed Constabulary committed the murder was not known. The question that we need to ask is, who will identify the accused man? Is it the burden of the victim who is being shot in the face by a man in uniform in the dark of the night? Is that survivor supposed to know who is this man and will therefore name him and identify him in the court? Or is it the job of the investigating agency? Why did those names not clearly surface and why were they not identified?
Okay, let me take this question first to Gaurav Bhatia. Then Gaurav, will the UP government then, I know that everyone's saying they're waiting for the detailed order, but just on the face of it, isn't this something that requires an appeal? It seems to be a really gross miscarriage of justice. Gaurav Bhatia.
Nidhi, the judgment is still not available. Even I was trying to have a copy of the judgment to analyze it. But then, as Vrindaji also said, that the right to appeal is always there with the state government, the judgment would have to be studied, and it's a case of circumstantial evidence. And even if after studying the judgment we see that the outcome is not the same or there is perversity, the relevant material is not being considered, then definitely it would be a ground for appeal. And it is painful to see that after 28 years also, and this is not just about this case, there are many cases in the state of UP where appeals are pending for 25 and 30 years and verdicts are then pronounced, and this is the trial stage itself. So the criminal justice dispensation system needs to be improved. No. And one very important aspect is about investigation. The initial few days after the date of crime are very crucial. In this case, your story was suggesting that for 7 years, it took the CBCID to submit a report. And then a charge sheet was filed in 1995 when the SP government was in power. After that, in 2004 and 2006, a special public prosecutor was appointed. So you can understand it took 18 years for a special public prosecutor to be
But then Gaurav Bhatia, would you concede that successive governments in Uttar Pradesh, irrespective of which party was in power, and this incident happened when the Congress was in power, but would you concede that successive governments have failed the people of Hashimpura? That this is a travesty of justice because every political party in Uttar Pradesh failed these people.
Can I just say, I don't think successive governments have failed.
There
just a minute,
is a travesty of justice, and I do not deny that.
I think we get
because if you deliver justice after 28 years.
Okay, Vrinda has a question for you.
Can I just ask you something?
Can I just make my point?
Just a moment. I don't think people have been failed in that justice has not been delivered because governments have committed lapses. I am saying governments have deliberately adopted strategies, policies, both to delay and not to investigate properly in order to shield the accused. This is not a case where there's been a lapse. This is a deliberate criminal omission by every single government.
Now can I answer that, Brinda?
Let him answer that, and then I'll come to Sudhanshu Trivedi who has to leave. Yes, Gaurav, quickly.
Can I answer that, Brinda?
Yeah.
Nidhi, can I answer that quickly?
Yeah.
At least speaking for the Samajwadi Party government, I will give you 4 crucial stages. The report was complete in February 1994 only because the Samajwadi Party government took initiative after coming to power. The charge sheet was filed in February 1995 again in the SP government regime. The 2 special public prosecutors which were not appointed for 2 years by the BSP were appointed by the SP government, and charges were also framed during the SP regime. I am still saying that it is travesty of justice because after 28 years, if a verdict comes, we can always, understand the pain of those persons who suffered during this time.
But the absurdity is that it should take 28 years. The absurdity, Sudhanshu Trivedi, is that it should take 28 years, and this seems to be, this is a glaring example in front of us. But when in a communal situation, in a riot situation, there have been other cases as well where it has taken years for the justice system to react. And Vrinda's making a serious charge, Mr. Trivedi, that she believes successive governments deliberately played a role in covering up what happened in Hashimpura. Mr. Trivedi.
If we go by the technical elaborations of Mr. Gaurav Bhatia, first I would like to correct him that the Samajwadi Party government came in power on 2nd of December 1989, not in 1984. So the immediate successor of the government from Congress was Samajwadi
I never
Party.
said 84.
Okay.
So I said
if
when
at all
this report
there was a
submitted
laxity on the part of the government, successive government, as Vrinda Grover is saying, if you look in 1987, this has happened when the Congress was there with overwhelming majority in the state and in the center, and on 21st of May this has happened. On 19th of May, MOS home P. Chidambaram has visited that site. So first you allowed the massacre, this entire riots to go in such an instance, then afterwards you are totally unable to control that thing. And BJP came into power on 21st of September 97, except for 17 months from 1991 to 92. So around for 10.5 years after the incidents, and even in the 28 years, most of the
why
time
the BJP was in power from
and
91
one political
to
point I would like to raise. Why
The
there are
BJP
so
was
many
in
no
power
rights
from
in BJP
91
rule
to
district?
92.
Then you put an
Please
allegation
correct
to the
facts.
BJP and its allies organization.
The BJP
which
was in
engineer
power
rights.
from
Okay.
91 to
Okay.
92.
But I ask, why this type of
Yes.
massacre in which only one community is targeted, 100% deaths of one community, whether this is Hashimpura of 1987 or Delhi riots of 1984 or Ayodhya of 1990. It's always happened in the so-called rule of so-called secular parties. This shows the intention of these parties
And Godhra
to create
riots,
a communal divide
Godhra
and their
riots was a
administrative
creation of the
failure
BJP.
to maintain law and
Why are
order.
you forgetting Godhra riots?
No, but this is not about Godhra. I think I just get Vivek Bansal of the Congress.
In Godhra, it is wrong. In police firing,
Yeah.
the more member of majority community were killed
Look,
than the minority, though I don't want to take it on the religious line.
Any kind of
Why are you
situation
making
is
it an
wrong,
issue of
whichever party
majority
is
and
in power,
minority?
let's face it. And
Why do you have to make it an issue of majority and minority?
Okay, one second, Gaurav. Let me get
There
Vivek.
was a targeted killing of Muslims.
So,
We cannot run away
Vivek
from that
Bansal,
fact.
Shouldn't the Congress be, hang its head in shame today over what happened?
They were
in
human
Hashimpura?
beings
This
also,
happened when
I
your
think,
government was in
Brindaji.
power. Look at this verdict.
Nidhi, to be honest enough, any sordid incident of this diabolic proportions or it is something very, any government whosoever is at the helm or in power at that point of time should be ashamed of. Definitely, I don't deny that. I take the moral responsibility is definitely there, but you know, a mad person or a group of mad people indulge into it. And the fact that the thing is, the crucial thing is, these sort of people should be brought to book. They should have been, the case should have been pursued in a proper manner, in such an effective manner. We talk about fast track courts. This whole episode was of such a you know grievous such a
One second,
serious nature.
What did the Congress government do about it back then?
At that point of time, if I remember correctly, I was not into politics, but at that point of time, whatever I remember is that Mr. Rajiv Gandhi had visited the site, and definitely some inquiries and all had been instituted. But subsequently, after 1 or 2 years, Congress government was ousted. And since then we had been
Mr.
out of-
Bansal, one second, Mr. Bansal, when was the charge sheet? 1995?
96.
1996 was the charge sheet, okay? So even if the Congress government was in power for 1 year after that or 2 years after that, the Congress government
2.5
basically
years,
did nothing.
Nidhi.
Yeah, 2.5 years. Okay,
years.
you did nothing in those 2.5 years. This massacre happened under the Congress's watch. Everything that you accuse the BJP for, look at yourselves. This happened under the Congress's watch. Would you concede this has been an utter failure by your party which ruled the state at the time? An utter failure and a deliberate cover-up, as Vrinda was suggesting.
I would not say that deliberate cover-up, but definitely it was an act for which we should take the moral responsibility. And but let me be very honest that any government, you know, at that point of time, particularly Congress government, we had been, if I remember correctly, Rajiv ji was at pains to when he reached there, and he was in all earnestness. He apologized to the people over that this misgovernance.
That doesn't mean anything, Mr.
But
Bansal, when the case is not pursued. But let me just get Mr.
Can I
Vikram Singh
comment,
in. Gaurav, one second, let me get Mr. Vikram Singh as a former DGP. Mr. Vikram Singh, how would you look at this verdict today, sir? I mean, you know, the fact is that most of these men are now, you know, they continue to be part of the state police, astonishingly. Mr. Singh.
They were never removed.
They were never removed, yeah.
Nidhi, let me tell you that this huge monument of shame, like Rome, was not built in a day. Over 3 decades, architects from all and various political hues and colors contributed towards its construction. It is the story of a bad investigation, worse prosecution, and miscarriage of justice. Now, 161
And the Brotherhood of the
not
Khaki.
a single registration of a
He had been
testimony
there
under
at the helm for
164
2 years.
CRPC.
Yes.
Number 2, the rifles that were sent to the CFSL in Hyderabad, they were redistributed. The persons who were accused, they should have been suspended and terminated. They should not have been back to their jobs. They are moving freely into the department. That should not have happened, number 1. And secondly, if you are accused of a heinous crime, it should have been mentioned in your ACR. That has also not been mentioned.
Yes.
But-
the question
but
that
sir,
the
you were
court,
also DGP
in
of
fact,
Uttar
called
Pradesh.
for the explanation of the Chief Secretary of UP
For
and
2
the
years.
Law Secretary. I was, but it does not surface in my time. Had it surfaced in my time, I certainly would have reacted in an appropriate manner. But let me tell you that the DGP,
Nidhi, can I come in?
DGP at the time between 2007 and 9, had this, if that had come in, I would have certainly reacted. Now, let me tell you that as a case that these policemen should have been, in fact, suspended or terminated from their jobs. This did not happen. The testimony of 161 witnesses was not recorded under 164 of the CRPC. Then what Brindaji has to say, the disconcerting explanations and the reasons given, I would be very uncomfortable at the outcome of the judgment, and prima facie it would appeal that we should go in for an appeal. But going into appeal after 30 years, you can well imagine the prognosis of the appeal and what would be the ultimate outcome.